Hello, so today we are going to be talking about the three websites that I designed for my portfolio for this class. One of them I used WordPress, and I used Weebly for the second one, and then the third and final one I used Bootstrap and just simple HTML. So with these three kind of creative outlets, I'm going to be talking about the advantages, disadvantages, and then just things that I liked through each one. So let's get started with WordPress. Okay, so this is my first time ever using WordPress. I got into it for this assignment. I think it's pretty cool. Some of the advantages are that over 75 million websites use this, and that's actually 20% of all websites. So that's a huge chunk. That was really surprising to me. So that makes it really popular, and people recognize it all over the place. It's also an open source software, so that makes it really convenient. And there's lots of themes and plugins. In fact, there's thousands of themes and plugins to choose from when it comes to WordPress. So let's get into that a little more. So here's a few of the themes to choose from, and you can kind of get dizzy scrolling through all of these. There's something for everybody though. Business related, store, and of course portfolio, like the one that I have. My current theme is Sean Byrne. It shows at the top. This is my website here. So it is kind of an overview of what this class is and then who I am at the bottom. And I kind of carried that through all of my websites. Like here's the Weebly. It's almost the same layout. I tried to make it as close as possible to easily compare each one. So going back to WordPress, I really liked it, but I think some of the disadvantages were that there was no initial tutorial. So here's the design view, and then here's the live website to compare. So when you're designing, when you're first starting, there's not really a way to like introduce it to you. It's kind of overwhelming because you get all these buttons and then you don't really know what each one of these things does. And then they try to make you, buy it so that you have your own domain, which kind of gets annoying after a while. And Weebly's actually similar to that, but you're kind of limited with what you have in WordPress when it comes to customization, and that's one of the another disadvantage is you have to pay to customize your CSS. Let's see if I can find that. So customize. So your CSS option, you have to purchase here. So you're kind of limited to the fonts that are within the theme that you choose. They really push paying, like payment plans for other ones. So they kind of get you that way. That's the one thing that I really did not enjoy. Another thing that was kind of annoying, I think it might just be with the theme that I chose, but there's no nav bar at the top. Usually you have a nav bar that shows each of your pages to choose from. Like for example in Weebly, I have that with little hyperlinks when I hover, but here it wasn't the case. But this one's only 2 pages, so I made a button my portfolio link. That was kind of annoying. But some of the things that I did like are mentioned here on my portfolio page. You can embed YouTube videos really easily. There's a nice option to do that. It makes it pretty convenient. And then also another advantage is that it's really easy to add pages. So you just go to your pages in your design view, and then you just click that pink button, and then you have another page that fills in with your basic layout. So that's kind of a introduction overview to WordPress. It has its good and bad. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. Now, Weebly, I liked considerably better. This is my Weebly website. It was easier for me to understand because I have used it before in the past. I used it once in high school, so I was more familiar. There is a nav bar at the top, like I mentioned, and it's also kind of cool because it comes with a search bar, so you don't have to code for that. It's just already there. That's kind of nice. And some of the advantages for Weebly that I found was that it's 30 million websites use Weebly, so that's kind of cool. It's not as popular as WordPress, but it's still up there. People are familiar with it. I like the format of creating things better in Weebly. It's just drag and drop. So, for example, I could drag an image here. It would load and then pop up. And it's easy to delete things too. And it makes sure. It's like, yes, I want to delete. That way there's kind of security to make sure you don't delete anything you don't want to. I think it's easier to drag and drop than it is to just click on what blocks you want because that's the way it is in WordPress. That's kind of a bear to me. Weebly is also cool because it's a lot more customizable. There's even a dark mode. Dark modes are really popular right now. A lot of websites and apps are going to dark modes. So you could choose between the two. I think that makes it a little more interesting. And you have tons of fonts to choose from, themes, different theme options. So instead of just being kind of held hostage to the one theme that you choose in WordPress, you can choose a theme in Weebly, but also have a lot more free reign within that theme. So I think that's a huge advantage of Weebly over WordPress. So let's talk about some of the disadvantages now. There really weren't that many, I thought, with Weebly. One of the things is you have to pay to get rid of their name, but that's normal. That's with all of them. WordPress, Weebly, Wix, what have you. One disadvantage was the title here. I think it might be a media query issue. It's not supposed to be right aligned like that. It's just supposed to be Quinny's web design on one line. And it doesn't snap to that until I make it considerably smaller, like maybe a small desktop or tablet size. And then once it gets to phone, it's on 2, but it's centered. I really don't understand. I think that's an error. But I was playing around with it earlier, and I found that I could decrease the size a little, and I guess that was the only problem. But that seems like a bug to me, so I can publish that to make sure that's cool. Oh, and that's another advantage is you can publish really quickly and just refresh, and it shows your new site almost immediately. So that's really helpful. Another disadvantage would be that there's not very much padding between the elements. So within a lot of these images, I had to add spacers, which isn't too hard to do. I mean, it's not hard at all, but it's just kind of another step to take. It's not terrible. So similar to WordPress, Weebly also has these YouTube options to embed here. You just drag and drop, and it makes it really simple, and just add your YouTube link. It makes it quick and easy. And then I kind of touched upon the font choices before, but let's go back to those if I can find it. Your theme. Change fonts. And then I'm a designer, so like fonts are my thing. So having this amount of choices for fonts is just super attractive to me. Like, I love it. And the fact that they categorize them by things like monospace, handwritten, and so many options, decorative, you can really get lost in there in a good way. You can customize it so much further than with WordPress, and it's free. You don't have to pay for that CSS. So that is a huge advantage. And overall, I think Weebly is the easiest to understand out of the three I'm talking about today. It's probably my favorite. So that was the two. Let's talk about Bootstrap lastly. So some of the advantages of Bootstrap is that it's 18 million sites use it, so people are familiar with this. It's probably the least popular out of the three that I chose, but the CSS external style sheet is already connected, so you don't have to worry about styling your CSS afterward or as you go. It's already there as you're coding. It makes it convenient. And the 12-column grid allows for a super flexible layout. Like, for example, I have 2 columns here and then 3 at the bottom. And Bootstrap includes tons of components and helpful website, and with the helpful website. And it includes the source code to make these things. So on the Bootstrap website, it gives you examples so that you can learn and actually utilize it the best way possible. So here's some disadvantages of Bootstrap. Since you're making things from scratch, it is more time consuming. So that's kind of a takeaway. It's more difficult to align elements. I think on my, on this page, some things go in and out, even though they're all nested inside of the same container. It doesn't really make sense to me. And it's more difficult to customize the colors and fonts for Bootstrap because it is already connected to that style sheet. And if you're connected to the CSS sheet on the Bootstrap website here, then you would have to kind of make sure you're not linked to that and link to the Bootstrap kind of local file and then change just the local file. So that would be a little bit more work in order to customize it. But the things that I do like with Bootstrap overall is the Jumbotron feature. I always use that. I think it's the best way to add a heading. It's very clean and stately. And it is super easy compared to setting it all up from scratch. Instead of making your CSS from nothing and your HTML from nothing, just pulling it out of the air, Bootstrap is a great foundation to begin a website. So those were the 3 building tools that I used, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.